Well, hello and welcome back to the WeWealth Women Podcast. I'm your host, Athena, CPA and founder of WeWealth Women, where we teach women how to live their best goddess life and embrace wealth, wisdom, and womanhood. Today, we have a special guest, Meirav Rosenberg.
Thank
Meirav,
you
say
so
hi.
much. Just
Yeah,
like, wow, what an introduction. Amazing, amazing, super impressive. Thank
yes.
you for
And
having me.
I am so glad to have you on the show today. And I feel like you're just going to give just a wealth of knowledge and experience and wisdom to our audience. So, for those of you who may not know, Meirav May Rose is on a mission to transform life's challenges into opportunities for growth and success. As the founder of the Paz Agency and Paz Interactive, she has spent 17 years, okay, helping businesses and individuals elevate their digital presence and unlock their potential. Meirav believes that resilience and adaptability are the keys to thriving in both personal and professional life. With a rich background in marketing, branding, web design, and international strategy, Meirav's journey is a testament to overcoming adversity. After relocating from Israel to NYC as a child and losing her father at age 10, she learned early on how to see the good in life's changes. All right, that's something that we're going to talk about today. From becoming a self taught web designer while raising twins, okay, to growing her business into a thriving venture in New York, Meirav's story is one of grit and grace. So, whether guiding entrepreneurs to financial independence or mentoring women to embrace their full potential, which we are all about here on the WeWealth Women podcast, Rav's passion lies in helping others achieve success on their own terms, and she's here to help you see opportunities in every transition and turn them into triumphs. Listen, Rav, girl, do you drink coffee? Because I'm like, you have done a lot.
First, I love coffee. I think, coffee is the best, and you need a lot of coffee to do that, but you also need a lot of wine. Just saying.
I love wine. What is your favorite wine, by the way?
Actually, it's red. I drink reds, and we have like amazing vineyards in Israel, by the way. So like we have Chateau Golan, which we have like amazing ones. But usually, I drink like a full body red wine.
Uh,
That's usually what I have.
I drink both. I love a good red and I love a good white. I tend to like the
What about
dessert.
rosé? All
I love a
day.
rosé. I love a rosé. I love a Moscato. I love dessert wines. I'm definitely a sweet girl. But what life requires a little bit of wines.
And yeah,
But
and like some cocktails and like coffee could come in between those two just to like, yeah, wake up
yeah,
sometimes.
perk up. So I want to touch on something that, you talk about and, that was in your introduction. So you talk about seeing the good in life's changes. What advice would you give to women navigating personal and professional transitions since you've gone through so many?
I think there's a moment in life where you kind of need to like look a little bit about your life in a conscious state, meaning, hi, okay, this has happened to me thus far. What have I learned from this? Do I still want this? So I think if you sit down a little bit and have like a watcher seat, right? If we're talking a little bit about spirituality, it's like there's you and there's the voices that are in your head. Okay? The mind that keeps on thinking those thoughts. And so what I would say that when something happens to you, have a moment, go through that moment. It could be a happy moment, it could be a sad moment, it could be an angry moment, it could be a grief moment. Any moment that you have, accept it. Accept it as the moment, as that specific experience that you are now experiencing. I feel like life is meant to have so many experiences. Think about it. I mean, you could have so many experiences here, right, on planet Earth. You can have the most amount of experiences. And that's exactly what we're here to do. So, one of the things that I always think about is, how would I know love if I did not know love? You know what I mean? How would I know what a sad moment is if I didn't have a happy moment, and vice versa? Right? How do you have like a sad moment if you don't have happy moments? How do you have happy moments if you don't have sad moments? How do you have highs and lows? How do you go through growth if you don't expand your experiences? And so, when thinking about any type of experience, whether it's tragedy, okay, or whether it's something great that happens, I know a lot of people that get millions and millions of dollars and they're not excited anymore. It's not exciting anymore to them. So, and a person that lives in poverty and all of a sudden gets that $1 million, what kind of experience does he have? So one of the things that I think that I would say to any person going through any challenge is that, what are you here to learn? What are you here to experience? And I think that automatically makes it a little bit easier to go through that experience, just to know that, okay, if I came to this point, then I could get to the other point of expanding my options. So if you made your first, let's say if we're talking about money, right? If you made $100,000 in a month, and then you made 1 million in a year, and then you can make 2 million next year, then that growth wouldn't have been able to happen if you didn't start off with 20,000 a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really get to a point if you can't, like I call the body and the mind a vessel. And so in
Right.
order to get all the good experiences, you also have to know what a good experience is.
Right. And I think there's something to say about that, because I do think life is, and all of our experience encompasses between those two poles, right? Joy and pain. And I actually just watched an interview. I'm in this separate group, and life coach Kanye, she's a TEDx speaker. She was talking about when she had this experience when she was teaching English to monks, that the monks say when joy is in the bed with you, pain is on its side waiting for its turn. And then when pain is in the bed with you, joy is on the edge of the bed waiting for its turn. And that the fullness of our life experiences exist within both, within the joy and the pain, so that we can, because both are change agents and both have influence in how we shape our experience and our perception. And that, we should value both. Because I have a question for you, because your story is one of grit and grace. Like, you don't, as an immigrant, I left my country to come here, and I feel like every immigrant I come across understand that, um, there's sacrifices that are made when you leave your home and go into the unknown, into somewhere else. Even though you're hoping for better, you don't necessarily know what's on the other side of that. And then, you're coming from Israel, and then you lost your father at a young age. Do you think the mindset of our society or in the world right now is that we don't allow room, for those negative experience to build our inner grit? Are we just running away from all aspects of pain and chasing this elusive happiness that we cannot even experience 24/7?
I think that you just stepped on a point that is so, we're in a rude awakening. I would say 2025 would be a rude awakening. And why I say rude, it's like you said about the pain and joy, and what I said about growth. It's called growing pains, isn't it? Right? It's growing pains. Why is it so painful to grow?
Hmm.
Because it's painful to grow.
Hmm.
Um, and you need that kind of, kind of like hot, cold, and then something actually expands, right? Water actually goes through rocks and stuff like that. It's like the persistence and the like and the continuation of that growth can grow into something huge. And you discuss sacrifices. And I think the way that I see things as being a mom, as being a career woman, as being, I hate the word sacrifices. I just absolutely hate that. I think that you should not compromise on anything. But I do think that when you place something as priorities, if you have a priority list, then you know that for 1 week, the kids could be on your priority list if you're number one on that priority list. Okay. The kids could be number two the next week. I don't know, because you have a delegation with a babysitter, your ex-husband, your husband, their father, a co-parent, or like I said, paid help in order for you to put career first. So I wouldn't say sacrifice, especially if we take immigration, right? And then say, okay, so the opportunities that are waiting for me on the other side of that immigration are, and you find those opportunities. And then I don't see them as sacrifices. So I really try to have like it doesn't work every day, right? Like positive mindset in order to get the things that I want on my list done. And if I feel like I'm making a sacrifice, whether it's with food, whether it's with my like going out, whether it's with my celebrations, whether it's my work, okay, then I feel like it would be harder to do. And I'm all about life isn't easy, but let's make them easier. And so I think one of the points that you said about how everybody else is kind of thinking about sacrifices and the inability to make them, they are kind of in a state where they want us to be kind of, right? In the pain mode, in the not seeing the joy mode. And then what happens is that you fall out of consciousness, meaning you're unconscious to your own self and your own joy that you can be having by external things, right? Did you see the Netflix show Buy Now?
No, what is it about?
Oh my God. Like I seriously have stopped shopping online until like the Zara sale tonight. But like
Oh, I think I saw a commercial where it's like all these clothes are in the
so
garbage because of fast
scary.
fashion.
It's so scary to see in point blank how people are like, okay, buy, buy. Okay. Buying is an addiction like any other addiction. And I think that what I said about rude awakening is that we're noticing that, okay, we were like, people were doing like, okay, buy now, drink now. You can't be alert or awake and in your own choices because you're drawn to TV, you're drawn to like buying, and then you need to work that 9 to 5 until not the 5. And I think that what is happening is that we're getting distracted from ourselves. And that's the pain portion of it. You don't want to feel pain, but you're supposed to feel pain. Otherwise, how would you feel joy? So when you take away the pain by external distractions, such as shopping, which is kind of my big problem, I'd say, or for people it would be TV, or for people it would be drinking, and for people it would be other worse addictions, right? And that dumbs down the pain. I think that people can actually see. But if we figure out, I think as a collective people, that our joy is only from within, like exactly what you said, right? We could still feel pain, but I think it wouldn't be that sacrifices. It would be a different kind of mentality that we can actually uphold in order to see things as they really are and not that painful. Just an experience that we're going through and that we're going to learn from it. And that if we didn't have pain, then we wouldn't have joy. And just being thankful, even for those specific points, and just a little bit more consciousness about what's happening in the world and how we shouldn't be that scared. But if we are, then just check that out.
Exactly. And I do feel that I liked how you positioned everything towards more of a positive mindset instead of focusing on the sacrifice, focus on the opportunity, right? Just reworking our perceptions around certain things to help us even go through these experiences, even though we may be afraid, with a more positive mindset and thinking so that we can navigate them with more ease and grace versus, dread and fear. Because who's trying to be in dread and fear all the time? I know I'm not.
But that's
Exactly.
where we are most of the time, I think. I've heard this with women trying to make more money in their business, women trying to get out of their work space. I always say if like no one's giving you a seat at the table, build your own table. And
Right.
and and why not? I mean, you know what you it's like it's like people are scared of, if you think about it, people who are hired at a company, they're so scared of losing their job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, okay, but you could lose your job any day, right? Something can happen, and you're not in the control seat. No one gave you that option because no one can. The only person who can give you that option is you.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly. I think you touched on something so powerful because you even talked about, you know, referencing the seat at the table. And I remember, and I kind of want to pivot a little bit to business now. I remember when I first started WeWealth Women, and everyone talks about networking, everyone talks about doing all these things, and reaching out, which are important things to do, right? But I felt like for me in the beginning, I was trying to be invited to other people's tables, right? Trying to get a seat at the table, or what position they were. And to be honest with you, I didn't see the change. I didn't feel the pivot in my business, or even the things that are happening now and to come, when I started to be like, you know what, I don't necessarily want a seat at anyone's table. I'm going to focus on what I have here and grow this table and build my value, which I think a lot of us try to avoid, and focus on building my value and then invite other people to my table. So, what I want to ask you is this, Meirav: what got you to the point to where that you are building your own table, right? What challenges you faced while scaling from a freelancer to business owner, and how did you overcome them by building your own table?
um, my table was built out of survival mode, actually. So when I was 26, I already had twins, and I was married to a not, I would say, it wasn't a great relationship. And and at the time, I worked at a PR firm. I already had a degree in business. I worked at an international PR firm in Israel at the time. And it was a job that was like 9 until like 9. And I knew that I couldn't pursue PR specifically at that time because I did want to be a mom. I did want to raise my kids. I knew that I did not, they weren't a mistake. They were chosen to be mine, and I wanted to be with them. So I remember leaving for maternity leave and then quitting my job. And then we had a big, I think, break in our marriage where I told my now ex-husband, but not at the time, by the way, that after 3 months of not helping with the twins, that I will not need his services anymore. in a nicer way, I would say. And that, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that we will continue without him. Um,
That
and
took some balls to do that though. Because I think a lot
actually,
of
it
women
did.
would be afraid to be like, even if he's not pulling
I
his
didn't
weight or
have a
doing it.
job. I didn't have a job. I had 3 months old twins. I did not, I didn't have money. I really didn't. I
Hmm.
really didn't. And I knew, and by the way, like I was a junior at that PR firm. It wasn't like I was like great in my career, not at all. It was like I
Mm,
knew I wanted children. I thought I wanted, like I knew I wanted children with their dad, which I am so happy about. I have three treasures from the same ex-husband, and I'm extremely grateful for him for that. I'm extremely grateful for him for so many things that happened due to those struggles. So I knew at the time that I said goodbye, that I will need to think, how am I going forward with this? How am I going to be independent? And at the time, he really wanted us to work things out. We did go to counseling, and it was like that seed was planted. And it wasn't that the relationship got a lot better, but we did have some growth over time, and things did change a little bit. And after probably a year of being with the children, I looked for a job and I found the perfect job. I was a marketing director at a theater hall, which I love theater and I love the content and I actually love my boss. We're still amazing friends to this day. And she's one of my best friends. And and I did not know her then, but I started working there and I knew I was still not making enough money and I still had those seeds of the relationship struggles. Nothing really changed. It was more bearable, but I knew that I needed to think of, I wouldn't say an escape route, more of as, I don't want to need you anymore. I don't want to need anybody anymore. And so I opened up a side hustle teaching myself how to build websites because I've always been really good with computers. I went to the computer school for our army, that we all have to sign up for, and it's mandatory in Israel. And so we all go to the army, and I was a computer instructor for the army. And so I was pretty savvy, and I started working the morning job as a marketing director, which I did all the digital marketing, which was almost non-existent in 2010. And then building websites at night for private people. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And my side hustle, I was making 4 times more than I was making in my own business. And I was really good at it, and more people came. And then when I had my third child, I had to leave because it was getting so much bigger that I couldn't even work another job. And so I really left my hired, lovely job just because I was making so much more money and I did want to be independent. And I think that was that seed that grew and grew and grew, and I grew and grew and grew. And that table kind of, I just like built it. And it's like, then I opened up the New York office, and that grew. And I think that when you love something that you do, and you do what your purpose is actually meant to do, then it's supposed to be easy. And I think a lot of people are even scared of the easy.
yeah. Do you think that we focus on if we're not feeling some kind of pain or struggle, it's not real? Like if things come too easy to us. I'm all
That's
into,
so
by the
sad
way,
though, isn't it?
manifestation and attraction, law of attraction, all of that stuff. So one thing I try to challenge is that even if I look at the major things that moved my life forwards, a lot of those things came either easily, or even if it was things that I needed to put energy or time or work or effort into, there were things that it wasn't a struggle to make that decision, but somehow in our minds, we have been conditioned to think, I need to struggle. I need to be in survival mode. I need to experience some kind of pain to know it's working, or to know that the effort, I'm worthy of the effort that I'm putting in, or, something like that. Do you think we have that kind of conditioning, especially as women, to kind of like bring down our self-worth and our self-esteem?
I think, unfortunately, we have been conditioned, most of us. Especially, I think, in my age range, right? In like you were born in the 1980s or whatever. We have been conditioned to have more jobs altogether, right? We're the ones who are in charge of the household. No matter what you say to me, I have almost never met a man that was in charge of the household. They're like probably the 10 percentage, okay? Like just
I'm trying
being
to
very
meet these
large.
stay-at-home dads that they say exist.
Like I said, 10%, and I'm being very generous, right? And so we've been conditioned to take care of the household. That was kind of our old job. That was like 1950s, 60s, even like the beginning of 70s. And then what happened was we got another job. Now you can go and have a career. But no one helped us take over, right? The job of the household. So like, okay, wait, like now I have more positioning, like more jobs. And so there's only like 24 hours in a day for a man and a woman, right? And so if a man, and that's what I was saying before about priorities, if a man can put the children as a second priority to his career, then why can't you? And I'm not saying that you should not take care of your children. That's not what I said. The man has that woman who is counting on to take care of all of his needs, not only the children. And I'm not talking about like the relationship. I'm talking about like laundry. I'm talking about like the cleaning the
Yeah,
house.
the day
Like
to
I said,
day.
the day to day,
Girl, I plan on getting a nanny to help me when I have kids. Okay, I'm not doing it all by myself. I'm not doing it. I remember working with women, and I will always talk to the working moms, and secretly they would tell me, oh, they have high blood pressure. And after, at 5 o'clock exactly, they have to go to the daycare, because if they don't pick up the kids on time, that's extra money they have to pay. And then um, a lot of them would actually refer to, it sounds so bad, but like, oh, I'm going to my second shift now. I'm going home because I have to cook, clean, and take care of the kids. Home. Yeah, I have to do all this second shift, and my husband, I'm still expected to do more of that work. So I feel like women, I'm sorry, hold on one second.
no problem.
I don't know why I just got an allergy attack, but I feel
Happened.
like women self abandon in many ways. Like, we're conditioned to take care of everyone and do all these things. And you lose yourself within those responsibilities, because now you have to do this career, but also you have to take care of the kids, and you have to take care of your relationship. So where is there time for you? I remember I was engaged to my ex-fiance, and he did premarital counseling. Thankfully, we did premarital counseling. And I started my career working for this accounting firm, and I was working 50, 80 hours a week. And he was also a pastor. So on the weekends, I would help him with church related things that would take all day, Saturday and Sunday. So one of the questions that popped up in premarital counseling that I asked, I was like, where's time for me in the midst of all of this? And there was like no answer. I never went through with the marriage because I don't know, intuitively, I felt like there needed to be space for me, or else that all of those responsibilities were going to crush me. So as a woman, you had twins, you said you had 3 kids, and you went through this transition and you built a thriving business. But I know that took a lot. I know that took a lot, but I know you also did it for yourself, right? What could you say to encourage women to not self abandon themselves and also to make space for their own dreams, their own aspirations, and their own goals?
First thing that I would say, you're fucking worth it. You're so worth it. You are so worth it. So, like, if no one told you today, you're worth it. Okay? You're worth all the time. And the other thing that you said, if you have instincts, trust them. If you have those voices, those little whispers, that's you. That's you telling yourself that you are worth more and that you know that. And it takes such, and there's signs, there's signs. Like for me, I was almost 50 pounds overweight. 50 pounds overweight when it was probably like 5 years ago, 50 pounds overweight. And so really, I found myself physically struggling by just like seeing myself physically getting ill. I saw myself and I knew that something had to change. I knew that I was worth more. So look at the red flags. You have to see those red flags and know that, like you said, if it's marital counseling, if it's anything that you see that you feel a little bit uncomfortable with, but not in an uncomfortable growth place, but like, that's not for me, then you probably know that's true. As to the pain, we have been conditioned to get familiar, like our mind, what he is familiar with is something that he feels is trusted, safe, which is the worst thing in the world, right? It's like you see someone, he's like, I don't know, like I've heard about, women marrying someone who is like their narcissistic dad. And like, dude, that's not going somewhere good. Okay. But that's what she knows. That's the kind of love that she knows. I've had a client say to me that like she doesn't know anything but like painful love. And like, newsflash, love is not supposed to be painful. Love is supposed to be the greatest thing ever. So, and by the way, I know this because I've visited both of those polar opposites, the painful portion and finally the unconditional love portion, where I have done so much work to know these kind of like big differences between one another. And so, and also like the pain of grief, and then having such, I think, an appreciation for life, because I know how fragile it is, and I know how I wanted to be a mom because my dad died when I was so young, and I like it took me a while to stop being mad at him for leaving and start like feeling sorry for the fact that he didn't even he couldn't enjoy us for longer. And except for the fact that I have 16-year-old twins, which I'm not enjoying at the moment, I really do enjoy them. Like it is a struggle, but I'm excited for the struggle. I'm excited for them to have their lessons. And when I see those things, it's like such an appreciation of life and all of its experiences for me, for them. And like you said about responsibility, sometimes I have to remind myself that it's not my responsibility for their lessons. And I have to take responsibility for only me. And I have to take care of me. Because if I take care of me when I said you're worth it, then you're worth it times 100 for so many other women. Because if you're good, you do good. And I think
I
we have
wholeheartedly, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think, it's hard to pour from an empty cup. And it's also hard to pour from a cup that's already full. And as women, we take on so much. 80% of the autoimmune diseases are found within women because women tend to be the emotional containers for our relationships, our relationship with our partners, our relationships with our children, parents, everything. We tend to absorb and take on all of that, their energy, and uh, in the ways that we self abandon, it causes that illness, because a lot of illnesses start from an emotional internal place, and science is now catching up to what we have known, especially in spiritual, from a spiritual perspective, for a long time when it comes to that, right? But I think that, you know I like how you balance that, you not deprive your children of your own lessons, because I also feel like as women, we try to do everything for everyone, as, because we were taught that we have to perform our worth, like we have to be utilized, we have to be this source of utility, or else we're not worthy. And we try to reach this, I don't know what ideal we're trying to strive for anymore. If it's this Wonder Woman ideal, if it's this Stepford wife ideal, but it's like slowly killing us, and obviously that is not has not been helpful for us in that way. And I even think so when in regard to relationships with men, like that narrative has not been helpful for keeping relationships together, because I don't know, even in my past dating experiences, I just didn't know what men, if they truly understood like what a relationship with a woman was outside of her service, or outside of her being what I call like a wife appliance, like that expectation. But I think they themselves are also conditioned to think that, to play into that narrative, and even want that, whether or not they play into the stereotypes that they're supposed to do or not. I know is they want that regardless. So you said you looked like you had a comment you wanted to say.
I I I can say that it took me a very long time to know what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that to you, by the way. I don't know what your status is,
Mm-hmm.
but when I looked for love, which I did after my divorce, me and my ex-husband got separated 5.5 years ago, and I found my now fiance 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, January of 2021. And prior to finding my fiance, I went on 60 dates via apps. Okay. Like it was COVID. It was like lockdown, like on and off. And like dating was like 2 glasses of wine. Sometimes it was Zoom dating, 3 Zoom dates until we got to meet and share. Are you next to COVID? And so it was very interesting. And the more I dated, the more I understood what I liked and disliked. But I also kind of made a plan, like I do with business, like I do with every client that I take on for marketing, right? There's if you don't have a goal, how am I getting there? So I think the same thing is with definitely not putting the responsibility on someone finding you. Same as not trying to get a seat at any other table, but making your own table. So when you take responsibility, and I'm saying only about you, then the rest will follow. If you know what you want, and I think Oprah says this great, like most of the people don't know what they want. And so like sit down for a second, because if you don't know what you want in business, in how much money you want to make a year, in your partner, okay, in your parenting, then the fact is that you're not going to get what you want because you don't know what you want. And then I definitely did not place any responsibility at any guy that I dated. I actually enjoyed the process. So many of the women that I, talked to or have actually like inspired, really inspired with the dating and have found relationships just due to the fact that I said that I dated for 60 like dates on apps. And they said, oh my God, if I only did like 30, then Meirav did like 60, then I'm good. Okay, then I'm good. But what I say is that don't get discouraged. It's like, how long have you studied to be a CPA? How many years?
If you include from elementary school, I'm just kidding. So even just to get the bachelor's and the master's, a good 5 years.
5 years, right? What
And
did you have
I
to
did a
do?
lot of dating too, by the way. Like I during COVID too. I think something about COVID made us feel like, oh, like maybe I'm alone or the world's shutting down. I need to grab somebody. And I went on probably.
But that's
I didn't go on 60 dates, but I did definitely meet a high number of men, which I will not say here, but I did definitely just meet them though. But I did definitely date at least like 60 men for sure.
and can I just say something? You said something super important because if the reasoning for you to want to find a man is because you were lonely, I don't think that's great reasoning. If the
Mm.
reason is to find a partner, that means
Yeah, I think I
something.
wanted a partner because at the time, right, 2020, 2020, 2021,
Yeah.
I was single or have been single for a good 2 years at that particular time. And I never dated before. I never really had to. So I was like, okay, well, let me go and meet people. And at first, or even sometimes when I still look at it, I'm just like, oh my God, I felt like I kind of dived into a cesspool a little bit. Like I felt like I was doing the Lord's work. I used to tell her I'm doing the Lord's work, like going on the dates with some of these men. Like I used to say that. But looking back on it now, I'm so grateful because I
Exactly.
learned so much about myself.
You, exactly.
I learned so much about what I wanted. I learned so much about men and how to even engage with them. At the time, I didn't appreciate the lessons, but looking back on it, I was like, wow, I grew so much. Talking about those growing pains we discussed earlier, I grew so much going through those experiences. And the other thing I noticed too, well, for me, because I did have friends that met people online or and they're married now and things like that, right? She's like part of the 12%. But for me, what was the more impactful connections that I met were actually people that I didn't make. I only did the apps for 2 months. The apps were too much for me. So kudos to you, Meirav, because I was like the apps were too much for me. But the impactful ones were people who I met in person when I wasn't looking, actually. Always when I'm not looking, always when I don't care. Like, oh, this person just popped up. So,
I think
yeah.
that they don't just pop up. It's like I heard this story once. It's like if you want to go and you're saying today in the morning, I'm going to a coffee shop and I'm gonna find me a man. Okay. And then you go to the coffee shop and on the way, like a really hot guy like talks to you and you say to yourself, I'm going to the coffee shop, my man is there. But dude, what about this guy? Right? So apps is just like a analogy or a metaphor for I'm open. Like I'm open to receive a buttloads of like opportunities of like men flowing in my radar. Okay, that's what it means. It doesn't have to be from an app. At the time for COVID, no one was going anywhere. Like no one's dating. And also, what I do love about apps is the filter process, right? I didn't want a single guy. I didn't want a single. I didn't want a divorce with one child. I did not want to have any more children. So I really did want to filter them because it really also kind of raised my self-esteem. It really did because all of a sudden they were like, I didn't know there were so many men in the world. Okay. Like, oh my God. And then you have to filter them. Otherwise, you would be wasting your time. And really, if you think about it, in business, you do the same exact practices, right? What you do is like, okay, someone's calling you up. So, what's your budget? Not in my price range. Bye. It's like the same thing. You filter them easily because it doesn't have to do with love. It doesn't have to do with you. It doesn't insert your, like, your kind of conditioning that you already have. It's easier. It's business. It's not personal. Although business is personal, in my opinion. And like everything that you do is you. And so it was it was easy for me to meet a lot of people in Pod's agency and like tell them, hi, this is what we do. This is how we can help you. And it was easy for me to meet people on date and say, what can you do for me today? Maybe you can't. And then I could say, what can I do for you today? And then if there was a mutual interest, we would go on a second date. And if there was another mutual interest, then we would go on a fourth date. And if I would say the intimacy was great, we would go on to a week or more. And if it wasn't, then we wouldn't. Okay. Because, like, no, that's a very important part. And so there are, I think, like stages where you should get to in order for you to get exactly what you want. But we should not, definitely not, be given or be giving men opportunities to like us without liking them. Okay. So like as soon as you make like a goal for yourself about what you want in your partner, what kind of relationship you want. One of the things that I requested, okay, like I really asked for the partner of my dreams, and I wrote like 5 pages of him. And one of the things that I asked for is that he sends flowers often because I love flowers. And before meeting my now fiance Tomer, um, he sent me flowers before our first date with a beautiful card. And like, I could have thought it was creepy, but somehow I didn't. Okay. Because I called and said, um, hi, thank you so much for the flowers. See you tomorrow, before our first date. And then he says, you know my sister. And I said, really? And he says, yeah. And I said, who's your sister? And he tells me her name. And she was the realtor for the apartment I was living in.
Wow.
And
The
so sometimes,
serendipity of it all.
exactly, 60 days. He couldn't come before. I don't get it.
Listen, I feel like you go through the trenches to
I
get the
do.
growth and to learn, and then all of a sudden the universe just serves up your person with no effort, like with no effort. It's so insane how that happens. So insane to me how that happens. But
It's it's
it
very
just
easy.
does.
There's like one of it's very easy, by the way. It's like it's super easy. It's called karma, but not the karma that everyone talks about. Karma is really just like an action that you do and the result of it, right? So even if it's not a direct result of me dating 60 people, the lessons that I needed to learn in that 6 months was 60 days until I got Toma, he didn't need those. He knew. He didn't need that. He already knew himself better than I knew myself because I was so dazed by my conditioning. And so I really needed to like, okay, I don't want this conditioning anymore. And this is not the guy for me, or this is boring, but this is how he's really cool. And I like how he behaves towards me, but this is still not my guy. And so you learn pieces of information. But, and this is in business and in life and in everything that we do. But if you don't, and this is like pointing back to like my first comments, right, on struggles or sacrifices, they're all lessons. They're all lessons. And I just heard this very daunting thing. Do you know that, like, I don't know how to say it, but a snake, when he grows, he rips the skin, or like a cocoon, right, turning into a butterfly. It's super painful. Like they take off their own skin, the snake, in order when they grow, and like it sheds off the whole. It's very painful, and so because the vessel just grew, they just grew, and well, it's painful. It is, but the result doesn't have to be painful. And that's, I think, the secret for you to know that it's not supposed to be painful. And love feels like love. It doesn't hide. And abundance feels like abundance when you see abundance everywhere. And by the way, that's my meaning. Like if we're talking Bible, um, um, there was this one really hot guy that's like hit on me when I was just in the midst of a divorce, and he was one of the Hebrew Jews. They come from Chicago and like they live in Dimona, and they're super cute. And he asked me my name, and I said Meirav, and he says abundance. That's what it means. My name means abundance. Like I knew that, but I didn't remember that, and he reminded me that that's what the meaning of my name actually means. And so like every one of us is extremely abundant if we just choose to see it. And so the opportunities when you see you're abundant are like endless.
Exactly. I 100%, 1000% agree. And that is what I try to focus so much on with this group of women and this community is getting us to see how abundant we are, and even trying to make, focus on your own power, your own lane, even in a crowded marketplace, even in a crowded environment, which I actually want to ask you, because I just feel like we've just talked about so much the range, from opportunities and kids and motherhood and dating, everything. But especially in today's world with AI and online space, right? You are, you have the PAS, you know, interactive digital marketing agency. Like, how can women, or what are common mistakes people make when they're trying to establish a digital presence, and how can they avoid them in this space, in this age?
I think one of the most important things is kind of vetting who you're going to get advice from. I think because there's so much chatter on TikTok, on Instagram, and anyone with like a phone can make a video and become an expert. I think that credentials are not being checked. As once, right, we wouldn't go to someone who didn't have credentials. I think the opportunities that we have today with AI and like with everything that we do, because there's so many different positions that you can fill, we have so much more opportunity to make money, but money doesn't mean wealth. I think that's also something that people need to understand, meaning you need to understand how to make passive income, not just income, in order to be wealthy. And I think that one of the biggest things that I would say is go to someone who you see that has a portfolio that matches where you want to get to. The first thing that you should do is kind of make a goal. Like I said about dating, and like I said about parenting, and like I said about anything. You want a goal. You want to know where you want to be in the 3 months, 6 months, 1 year period. Okay, if you're making $10,000 a month, you want to have growth. Okay, so by the end of the year, you're making 20. So that would be a goal. And then you would see what your products are. What are you good at? Even if you're just starting off, what are you good at? I would say the fact that there's so many kind of education freebies that you can get nowadays, then I would again check the credentials of the person that you're reading from. That would be the first thing. And they only need to be 10% better than you. So if you're making 10, they need to meet 20, okay? Or even less. But you want to see someone who has already done what you want to be doing. So don't go into the millions and don't overreach. That's one thing. It's not that you don't deserve to overreach. You do, but you just don't know how to do it yet. So follow like milestones. There's so much information out there these days. And I think that one of the main things that you want to do is kind of highlight your products or services. And then make sure you know how much you offer for each. And then make sure that you know how many you need to sell in order to make the amount of money that you want to make. So it's really not like a big Excel. It's really just like a small, even post-it with a couple of numbers about how much you want a year, how much you want a month, how much you want a week, and how much you want a day, right? It's super easy. It's like 4 steps. And then you need to say, okay, this service, so I need to sell X amount of services. The first thing that I would do is go and understand how you're going to sell. That would be probably the first course that I would take. If you don't have salesmanship, then go learn what you're supposed to do. Okay. Charisma is something that you can learn how to get. Selling is definitely something that you need to learn how to get. That would be my first lesson in any business. Any business. Okay. Talk about what you do with everybody. Post it on Facebook. People don't understand how much they can receive from one post per week on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you want. All 4 are great. TikTok, whatever. Okay. I would rather have Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for actually getting a project for services, and especially in a certain like age range. And then see what happens. Just see the results of your actions, because all you need to do is 20%, and the universe does 80% of those. You have no idea what opportunities arise when you talk in the right rooms about what you do and find those opportunities. That would be kind of my steps about how to get a table of your own. It's easier than you think. And one thing that I do want to say, I don't believe in competition. I just don't believe it. I am I don't have a competitive bone in me, because abundance means that there is no such thing, a lack of anything in this world. And if I leave with one kind of, like sentence to let everyone, there's only one of you. Athena, there's only one of you. There's only one of me. There's only one of everybody. Okay? Only one. So, like, there's no competition, because no one is like me. No one is like you. No one is like, there's only one of a kind of you. So, if someone resonates with what you have to say, and I promise you, there will always be someone that resonates with what you have to say if you say it. If you don't say it, then no one will know it. And if you can get in bigger places and bigger rooms to say what you have to say, then I am positive that there will be so many people that want to hear what you have to say.
Wow, so powerful. So powerful. And I think that that message is right on point and right in line with advice I would give women, because the thing with business, and I've started businesses before and some were successful and some weren't, I had to learn that, especially because I was coming from that traditional corporate background, I was used to doing the work in the business, but not the work on the business. That and figuring out your sales and your sales funnel is, I think, like you said, is the first thing, because
First thing.
sales is a lifeblood of the business, and you can provide all kind of services and everything, but if you cannot get people in the door or to make that Stripe payment, the business is not going to survive, right? And then once you figure out that funnel, you can scale it. So it
Exactly.
is. simple in theory. Now the execution, it has nuance. Now the execution has nuance, but obviously that is the path. Now I know you have the Paths Interactive, and you are a digital marketing agency, and I want to thank you for being on the show and the time here. What can you say about your agency and the services you provide, and who would be your ideal client?
Um, we love everybody. We really, 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 really do. We highlight and showcase and shine a light, I think, on all types of businesses. We have packages that can be prepared for small businesses, medium businesses, and those are our main clientele. We love working with doctors and real estate agents, and we love working with developers on everything that's branding and web design and marketing collateral. And we love creating content and we love the messaging. And we really love making a goal and then getting it and then getting there. That's really what we really enjoy. We love measuring things. We love the math. We love the numbers. And I think that a great client would be someone who wants to grow like we want to grow. And that's one of our favorite things, to see someone actually be bigger, actually become knowing of their worth while working with us. We really do so many things for so many people. But if we can just maybe even talk about our products, it would be branding identities, marketing collaterals. We design all types of websites, whether it's Wix, WordPress, or Shopify's. So there's e-commerce and all types of websites that we do. And then obviously the messaging and having the right copy makes such a big difference, I think, in so many aspects. And helping people make those sales funnels, those strategies that we can offer them the most amount of help on their marketing efforts. This does not, by the way, give us the responsibility of their business, but more so, we are here to help them with their responsibility. And I think that's the most important thing. We're here to help with their responsibility. And if taking that on a spiritual level, a person should never do life alone. Do a business, do life, do parenting alone. It takes a village. It really does. It really does. And I think that if you have, whether it's hired help, whether it's loved help, whether it's family help, not everyone does, then use that and get the help that you need. Make sure you find the right person who does that. Make sure you check his credentials, because I've heard of so many stories of people like getting burned or like not choosing the right person. And sometimes not choosing the right person will lead you to the right person, and then knowing that that would be the right person for you. So even don't hate on that experience as well, but make sure that you do try to not fall, and try to grow and try to find someone who wants to grow with you and your business.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Oh my God. Like I just felt like the time just went by so quick.
Thank you.
And it's
I
been an
had such a
hour,
great
and I wish
time too.
I could just steal you and just keep you with me, or put you in my purse and just pull you out when I need you, but
Not that tiny.
fortunately that can't happen. But thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast, sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. I felt like you just gave the ladies every bit of everything. I will include all your information, especially how you can sign up, check out the Paths Interactive, her Meirav's digital marketing agency, to help you, brand yourself and brand yourself in life. And um, I just appreciate you so much for giving us of your time. And for you guys listening in the audience, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this today. And please also comment down below what was the best gem that you received from Meirav today. And we love you guys, and we will see you in the next episode.
See you next week.